Hello, welcome. I'm doing a follow-up from the sapling tutorial, building a tree, that you may have done. And this one is basically what you do with the tree after you've finished building it. So if you follow the sapling build a tree guide, then once you've got your tree at the end, this is the position you'll be in, and then we'll look at texturing the tree. So we're going to make a procedural bark, and we're going to texture some leaves and just go through a few various tips and tricks as I go along. So firstly, I'm going to show you the bark. This is the setup which I did earlier. This one I've built something called the Infinite Wood Builder. It comes with the tree builder package I made, but this isn't a bark from that. This is one I built yesterday, so it's a brand new fresh one, and I will show you the bark that we're going to build. But first I'm going to hide all these bits because they take up a bit. And if we zoom in, so this is the bark, just random, a random mess, but it's all procedural, so it's all good. Okay, so without further ado, let's get going. So I'm going to just add a quick tree from my own library. But as I say, if you did the tutorial building a tree in Sapling, then you'll already have one ready to go. I'll pause the video while I wait for bits to load. Okay, so now we have a untextured tree, and as I say, if you finish the sapling tutorial, this is probably something similar to what you ended up with. The first thing I will do is just hide the leaves. If ever the performance in your viewport is problematic, it's going to be the leaves. If you hide the leaves, everything is spiffingly good. But what we want to do is we're going to need for displacement on the trunk, because this is for if you want close-ups of you know, in a scene that you've got a tree close to the camera, you're going to want some displacement, you know, make it look as real as possible. So we want displacement, but at the moment it's a curve. So we need a curve is useful because obviously you can move bits, you know, if you want a wobbly trunk perchance, then that's the way you do it. And then, so we want to convert this to a mesh. So if we go to Object, Convert Mesh, and then whatever resolution you set in your sapling settings is basically what ends up. But if we were to put a subdivision surface for the trunk, it's going to put it on everything, and that will probably blow up your system. So we need to separate the trunk, and the best way to do that is just select a vertex on that one. With this trunk here, I've actually got a few, so I need to make sure that I'm getting all of the trunk. And once you've done that, selected them on those bits, if you go to select linked and then linked, and that has successfully separated the trunk. And then we press P for popper and then choose selection. And now we just have the trunk separate to everything else. So I'm going to hide all that as well because we just want the trunk. And there's some resolution there, but I always like a little bit more to start. So I'm going to, but you don't want to, if I just subdivide this in its current state by going like that and then like that, you'll see it makes harsh edges. We don't want that. So we just add a subdiv, maybe put it on 2 and then just apply it. And now it keeps the smoothness, but we've got more to work with. And now we've got to unwrap this, and this is strange how this happens, but maybe someone knows in the comments can tell me. But here we go. So I've got a UV editor window up here, and if I tab into it, I've also got the sync UV sync selection. So whatever I select here will be represented here, but I want to select all of it. And what I'd like to do is follow active quads when I unwrap. So I'm going to select one and then press U, follow active quads, linear length average, and then it does this, which is not what I want. I don't understand why I have to go through these steps, but this is what I have to do. So I'm going to undo that. This time, if I cube project first with U, and now I do follow active quads, length average, it does a completely different unwrap, but that's the one I want. I want this type of unwrap. Okay, so that's the UVs sorted. If we go into render mode, I'll do it in render mode. I'm going to remove, just for a minute, get rid of that background. Because if you're in viewport shade, this one, what is it? Viewport methods, material preview, it doesn't like heavy shaders, so I will stick with viewport render setting. There. Okay, so let's make a new material. And as I say, this is a new material, and I was experimenting yesterday, and I have all the settings to my left, and I will be referring to them, but just follow along. So we want a texture, Shift A, texture, Voronoi. We're actually going to need two, so put another one up there. We're going to need a color ramp. I have them in my quick menu, which is just quick. But if you want to add things to your quick menu, Shift A, and then just right click on it, add to quick favorites, and then when you press Q, bosh. So let's connect the distance to the, I mean, this is for the, we don't need to do that. This is just for the displacement. So I'm going to Control Shift click that because I have Node Wrangler, and I'm going to put this to distance to edge. We're going to change that to 41. Okay, put some detail in, I guess. Yep. So that's fine, but it's very straight. That's so clearly unnatural, these major straight edges. So we want to mess around with them, and we can do that by editing the coordinates before they get to the Voronoi. So if we Shift A, converter, separate X, Y, Z, Shift A, converter, combine, connect those up. Just no, Alt right trigger, right click used to work with Node Wrangler. It doesn't anymore. And then Shift A, input texture coordinate, and we're using the of, and then drop that into there, and then it will do that. So to mess with the coordinates now, we're going to want to add a converter math, and we'll go for the X, leave that at add, and then Shift A, texture noise, and then drop that in the second port, and then it does that. So I'm just going to bring up this scale of the noise to maybe there, knock up that, and then I think I might just a bit more detail in that. All right, and that's getting there, but now I want it to stretch on the Y a bit more. So, oh, I haven't plugged in my UVs. And so I'm going to Shift A, vector mapping. I just want to change the scale of the Y to, I don't know, 0.2, 0.1. Yeah, that's better. So we've still got some of the straight edges, but it's a bit janky. That looks all right. Okay. And then if we plug that straight into a vector, Shift A, vector displacement, we can have a little butchers of what that's doing. So let's take this output from the color ramp into height. Let's drop that in displacement, and then Control Shift click this, and then let's just change the color of that so it's not so garishly white, and the roughness up. Yeah, it's not going to show displacement because we've got to edit the material properties under settings, bump only, change that to displacement and bump, and then we should see nothing at all. That's the scale. So I'm just going to put the scale on the displacement up to 1. Yeah. Oh, let's put the mid-level at 0, and let's put the scale at 0.5. And straight away you can see we're going to need more subdivisions anyway. I'm going to put that up to 4. I mean, already that's a pretty good start. But let's go further, guys. I'm going to turn it off because I don't really need to see it at the moment. Okay, so now we're going to look at this second one, which, yeah, let's just duplicate that color ramp, plop distance into there. We don't want to manipulate the coordinates of this one, so we're just going to go straight from the UV output into that, like that. And if we Control-Shift-Click that, we're going to bring the scale way up. I want this Chev. Yeah, and then probably smooth F1. But I want to go from the color. Yes, that's better. Bit of detail. Yeah. Let me have a look. Maybe drop the smoothness. Yeah, that's it, and a bit more dark. Bit more than that. Bit more than that. And I think I might just make this not so white. Yeah, it's just very bitty. I like that. I like that. So now we want to combine these two. We've got this one, and we got that one, and I'd like them both combined. So Shift A, color, mix color, put that in the top, put that in the bottom, choose multiply, rack it up, Control-Shift-Click, and then we've got a bit more weirdness. I'm wondering if the scale could be lower. We'll find out. And then instead of just that one, let's plug this, the combination of the two, into the height. Let's put that up. Let's put our subdiv back on. And because I made that's a bit grayer, that's why it's not so visible. So we'll just put the strength up on the displacement. 0.8. How's that look? We could do 1.3. Yeah. There we go. That looks pretty cool. Excuse the plane if you can hear it. You see it's all the way up. That's great. Okay, so we've got that, but what we're missing now is the bump and the color. So I'm just going to Shift D, take that one. I'm going to take everything that's coming out of that, put it into there. So we're basically taking the displacement data and using that for the color. And let's put that there, a bit lighter. No, that's, we'll see. Okay, so it should look like that. That's not great. So let's just give it a bit more of that light one, just so we can see the differences in the color. Go even further than that. Maybe make that a bit lighter. Sever Butchers. Yeah, okay. And then plug that into the base color on the principled. Control-Shift-Click that, or disconnect it yourself. And then we're getting a pretty decent looking bark, man. All right. So let's add some bump. And to do that, let's just, we'll just make a new Voronoi. And then I think we will take the messed up coordinates. I'm just going to turn the subdiv off just so I can get quicker updating here. Let's have a look. I need a color ramp. So color ramp. Put that to distance to edge. Oh. And then just ramp the scale right up, son. This is just the bump, so there's that look. Probably go even a bit further with the scale there. That might do the trick. And then Shift A, vector bump, drop that anywhere. And then we'll put that into the height and the bump normal into the principled normal. And now let's have a look. Now, it might not seem like there's much effect at the moment because there really isn't. So what happens is if you put it up to 10, it'll go black like it's a burnt tree, or it won't do anything at all. Why has it done that? Hang on. Oh, I know. Pillock. It's the distance. So it's on 10. If I put that up even slightly, so 0.02, it should start darkening. Yeah, there we go. Now it looks like it's burnt, so that's too far. So distance 0.01. This is just to a bit of grime in the gaps. That's still too much. So let's do 0.005. Or I could have lowered the strength. Yeah, leave it at 0.01 and then lower the strength to 5, maybe. How's that look? 3. And let's just see, does that make any difference? Should do. Yeah, quite significant difference. Okay, so that's pretty cool. So if we zoom out, maybe it's still a little bit too dark, so I might actually, let's do the distance to 0.05. Should lighten it. No, 0.005. Should lighten it up a bit. Okay, so that's our tree trunk, and that's our bark. Roughness you can mess around with. Maybe 0.7 might look a bit nicer. But yeah, that's the tree ready for close-ups. I mean the bark ready for close-ups. Now for the branches, we're going to use the same material, but just make a couple of changes because we're not going to bother unwrapping all those branches. So I'm going to unhide everything, but I am going to hide the leaves. As I say, they're the thing that will hit the viewport performance more than anything. Oh, I made a new tree, didn't I? Pillock. Okay, so I know what I've done. I've unhidden the first tree, which brilliantly... Oh, I've messed this up. Right, bear with me. Okay, so I just accidentally unhid the original tree. I've got back to my branches now. But I think they're where the white branches. There should be some white. There they are. Okay, so with these branches, we're just going to use this material, which here I have called, it was material 01. Okay. Yeah, so do the same, select the branches, put material 01, or call it whatever you want, but make it a new material, like this. And we're just going to zoom in and have a peek, because we might need to change the scale. Yes, we are. The quickest way to do that is to wait for the computer to not pause. It's got 32 gig of RAM, this thing. I mean, it's only a 5060, RTX 5060, but performance is not brilliant at the moment. So I'm going to, if you shift right click and then just join all those, shift A, and then converter vector math, change that to scale, and let's just plug that in, and then change that to maybe, let's have a look at 0.1. Yep, 0.1. And we don't need displacement, so we can just get rid of that. So now it's just, yeah, just the bark, just mostly the bump. You can leave it if you want. I suppose it's not going to make any difference to performance because it's not trying to do anything, but yeah, darkens it up a bit. All right. No, you do need to take displacement off. Yes, you do, because the displacement will make these bits, as you can see, thicker. So you do need to cut that. There you go. Now the little bits are back. Okay, so that's how you're going to texture, or you can texture the bark. And as I say, it's procedural, so you can mess around with all this if you like. I'm just going to show you some with just the leaves. Let's talk about the leaves. So where are the leaves? There, they should be untextured. Yes, okay. So texturing the leaves, if you have none of your own, with my Infinite Tree Builder package, link in the description, it comes with all the leaves, all the different species already set up. But if you don't have any leaves as a texture, there's very easy ways to get some. For example, if you go to this place, texture.ninja, textures leaves, you've got all these which are already PNGs, already separated. If you can't get the tree leaf you want for a particular species, just Google it, find the leaf, and then just cut the leaf out. So give it a transparent background, and then you can take that over to this place, which is that address up there. I'll put these links in the description. It's brilliant. Load in your file, which would be, I guess, I'll just pick a leaf. Let me go somewhere. You get out of it. Let's say that's my leaf. I've already cut it out in Photoshop. That's not it at all. Yeah, there it is. And now it's given me a normal map, so I can download that. I can change to displacement, which is, I don't see the point, specular. So I normally get the specular and the normal, and that's how you can make your own leaves. And I've normally find that oriented north upwards normally produces better results when you actually put it on the leaves. Okay, so if we now go to new, and what we're going to need is 3 image textures. 1, 2, 3. And as I say, I've already set mine up. I've got a leaf cut out and everything, so I'm just going to add my diff and alpha into box number 1, and I'm going to add this would be a lot quicker if I wasn't in viewport rendering. Let me just go back to normal. Okay, and then I would like so I've got the diff and alpha, and that's gonna, as I say, that's got the alpha channel. Drop in, I've messed that up, that's the norm, which needs to be at the bottom. I don't know why I'm having performance issues right here at all. Okay. And now we want the specular. Why is everything so slow today? What is going on? Specular. And I guess I wait. Yep. Hey. So from the diff alpha, we put the color in the base color, take the alpha and put that in alpha aptly. The specular we will drop in. Oh, why is everything so slow? We'll drop into, I just put that into the tint. And then the normal, we want Shift A, vector, normal, map. Shift A, vector, normal, map. Drop that into color, and then normal into normal. And then let's have a look. Let's have a butcher's. Yep, that looks pretty good. Got everything I need. Trees, leaves, lovely jubbly. And one final trick to show you for the leaves. If you select the leaves, and then, as I say, make sure you've got a UV editor, and make sure you've got a computer that doesn't relentlessly want to slow down. I don't get why it's so slow. It's probably the leaves. If I hid the leaves, everything would go back to normal, but I just want to zoom out here. Let me zoom out in the UV window. It's just going to zoom out infinitely and I'll lose everything. Right there. Okay, so if you tab into edit mode, this is everything here. So whatever happens here happens to every single individual one of these. So if I subdivide once, and then I select, let's say if I have points, I select these points, and these points. You'll see that it's just selected the outside of every single one. So this way you can angle the leaves. But before we do that, press, I think it's point, full stop, period if you're American, individual origins, and press comma, and then go to local. Now if you press GZ, you should be lowering them all on their own axis, as you see. Okay, so it just gives them a bit of an extra dimension rather than just being flat 2D planes. You've got a slight curvature to it. You can also right click on them and then shade smooth. So if there's any harsh edges, the shade smooth should fix it. It's subtle, but you can, you know, it just adds a bit to it, adds a bit of realism. All right, I think that's it. That's everything. Yeah, you've got a tidy bark now that looks, as I say, if you're doing a close-up shot in your scene, you need to be able to see detail, displacement. You could, you know, if this branch was in it, I would also select this branch, get the link, separate it, and then add the same material so that the branches closest would all share this same thing. But obviously you don't want it on everything. All right, okay, that's the lot. I'll leave it there. Wicked. I hope that was informative. I hope, coupled with the first sapling tree building guide, you're now all sorted to do loads more. Have a ton of fun with it like I did. Until next time, farewell.